Hey, it's Rod Bergeron here with you today, and we are just north of Warkworth, Ontario, and we're looking down this road where there's this wheat field, there's a cornfield on the left. This is the third time today that I've done this, so I'm getting pretty used to what it's going to look like. Um, it's getting pretty late in the afternoon, so I am wearing my hat and my sunglasses. The light reflecting off the white of the page will really hurt your eyes. So my best advice is when you're outside doing this to wear sunglasses if you're working on a white page. It'll really hurt your eyes if you don't. Also, put on a hat, sunscreen, all that kind of good stuff. So I have just a regular drawing board. I have a pile of these that are all different sizes. This is one that I use for shooting on YouTube, and it's quite big. The page is set up to be 11 inches by 14 inches, and I've drawn that out with just a regular pencil. And I use this little strip on the side for doing my thumbnail sketches on before I go to my final work. So that's how I have this set up today. And I'll put the picture of this scene back up here. So you'll see that there's a road on the right, there's a gravel um, side to the road going down into a ditch. There's a cornfield on the left hand side, there's a wheat field sort of center, and then in the back there's some hills and some trees. So I wanted to talk today about artist edits, because there's a lot of things that we as artists see and sometimes we choose to include in our drawing or in our painting, and other times we don't have to include them, and we only have to include those things that are important to us to get our message to our viewer. So there's some things on this road. You'll see on the far left of this photo there's a telephone pole. Well, there's really nothing on that telephone pole. There's no wires or anything, so I'm not going to include that. Also, you'll see there's this cut grass that's dead and dried along the side of the road. I'm not going to include that either. I don't have any intention of putting that in. And then you'll see where the gravel is. I'm probably going to include some of that in my drawing, but I'm going to include it in a stippling. And then in the far background there's some buildings and houses on the right hand side. I'm probably not going to include any of those. They would be a very insignificant part of this drawing. So the first thing that I'm going to suggest that you do is we always do a thumbnail. So I focused on this thing. Remember the little acronym. I know those of you that watch me all the time are probably sick and tired of hearing it, but you can't say it enough. FTE. Focus, thumbnails, edit the thumbnails, do more thumbnails. If that's not working out for you, refocus, and keep doing that until you come up with a good composition. Okay? Remember, compositionally, we always want to work in the rule of thirds. So we take our drawing, we split it up into thirds, top to bottom. We split it up into thirds, left to right. These intersections are important places. These lines are important places. Okay? So when we look at this drawing, when we look at this video, I should say, of this road and this cornfield and wheat field, we need to think about where things are, how we're going to put those on the page. I want to have this rolling hill in the background here start and finish on the 1/3 line. Probably not that severe. Probably more like that. And this is the artist edits. I know that I want to have that road come up to about half, but I know I want to have it left of, or should say right of where this 1/3 line is. And I'm going to have it so that that road comes off the page here, and it comes pretty much straight down here. Okay? I know from where that road sort of ends in the photograph. Now you'll see it kind of dips down way off to the right, further down the hill. I don't know if I'm going to include that, but I know where this is. This comes down and across the page, and it comes all the way over across the page. I also know that this is part of this cornfield that comes down in this direction and then comes back this way. I also know that the road goes from here and dips up towards here. Something like that. I also know that on this side of the hill, on this side of the road, there's a hill that goes up slightly. I'm going to include that. This is all going to be sky. I'm probably fine with the way this exists, okay? So I'm going to say that's the way that I want it. Now I'm going to transcribe from here onto my page. Well, how am I going to do that? I'm just going to split this page up into thirds. I'm not measuring it. I'm just doing it by eye, and I'm going to say, you know, here's a third, here's a third, here's a third, and that doesn't quite line up with that. That kind of lines up with that. That lines up with that pretty well, and that lines up with that pretty well. Okay? So now I'm just going to move the things from here onto my page. This is all pretty good though. I think this actually comes up a little bit higher, but I kind of like the way that it is there. This is all sky, of course. So I'm going to put my pencil away, and I'm going to keep out my pen. And one of the things that I'm going to put in first is I'm going to put in this road. This is a black Sharpie, just a regular black Sharpie. I'm going to draw my lines in long linear lines, okay? So no hatchy, scratchy, sketchy lines. Long, long linear lines. And that's our drawing. So we have our drawing laid out there very nicely. We're going to let this dry off for a second here. We're going to put our black pen down, and I'm just going to grab my eraser, and I'm going to take off a lot of these graphite lines. One of the things that I really want to put into this drawing is I want to put some texture into this drawing. So the cornfield on the left, I really want to have you know, some different kind of stalks that are, the corn kind of grows where it has this little the leaves sort of bend over a little bit, especially here right out near the end, and so I'm going to put those in. Okay, so I laid in all the texture for that corn, and so, you know, corn grows on a stalk, and so that's what I was doing here with all the small lines going up and down. It grows on a stalk, and then the leaf bends over, right? So if this was a stalk of corn, each leaf bends over like that. So that's how I chose to represent those things. This is a ditch that's full of grass, so I'm probably going to put in some, you know, some indication that there's, you know, lots of grass growing in here. So I'm going to just flick my pen, you know, so that I have some lines that are going left and right. I already chose that I wasn't going to do that dried grass that's down the side, so we're not going to do that. We're going to do just some little flicks of the pen like this, just to indicate where some grass might be. And Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to paint this later, but I mean for right now I think that's pretty much the way that I want it to be. This is a small tree line in the back here, and it's fairly dark, so I'm going to go over this actually with a second set of lines and just put it in a little bumpy like that. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to vary this a little bit. Doubling up our lines is a great way to add some extra texture, some extra drama to our drawing. Like that. That's much better already. This is a very long linear line, so I'm not going to really muck around with those too much at all. Over here we have some more grass along the side here. I think I'm going to omit that. There is some trees here though that I'm going to put in a bit of a line that sort of alludes to the idea that these could be trees and that maybe there's many of them along here. Make this line kind of come up like that. Alright, that's good. This is all gravel, of course, along here, so I'm going to stipple this in. And if you've never really done stippling, just think of sewing machine. Your pen is going up and down many, many times. Okay, so I'm going to make this look like gravel by putting in a whole bunch of stippling. And again, we'll speed up the video here so you don't have to watch me put in a million dots. So my plan always was with this right from the beginning to paint this with watercolor paint. So I'm not going to do anything on this road. I'm going to put this road in and watercolor long linear lines. I'm going to add the minimal amount of paint to this. Grab yourself out your paint set. This paint set that I'm using is Sennelier watercolor paint set, and this is the Impressionist set. And I'm going to have the links to all this stuff in the description below. So, you know, one of the ways to support artists is to buy their work or, you know, watch their YouTube videos. Another way is to, you know, to help support me to, you know, allow me to make money to buy more paint and stuff so I can keep making videos, is to buy the stuff that I use from Amazon. And that's why I have links to all of my products and services that I use in the description. We got some water. Like I said, I'm going to do the minimal amount of paint on this that I can. I'm going to pick up some clean water. So this is going to be wet on wet. I'm wetting the page with my 3/4 inch flat brush. And then grab your water really quickly, grab up some paint really quickly, and that looks like a lot of paint, but it's really not when you consider how much water I've put on the page. Okay, so I'm going to do this green and this green, which is actually going to be this light green right here. I'm going to do the same thing though. I'm going to pick up my brush, and you'll see I have some blue still on this brush. Don't worry about that. Put that right in there. That'll be a nice little sort of under painting. I'm going to paint do this in a darker green. So I'm going to get some of this lighter green right here. I'm going to put some green into this. Okay, so then I'm going to pick up just a drop. I got a ladybug on my hand. Oh, and there she goes. I got some. Don't do what I just did. Don't hold your green brush over your beautiful blue sky. One drop onto there would ruin the entire thing, and there would be really not very many ways to fix it. So don't, that's a do as I say, not as I do moment. So I got my brush with my green paint on it. I'm going to pick up just a touch of blue, just a little wee tiny bit of blue, and I'm going to put that into this. And that turned really green, really dark green. That's not what I was going for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and that's going to be the color of green I want in the back there, not here. So I'm going to pick up some more water, about that much, and now I'm going to pick up this green and put this into here, and that's the color I'm going for right there. Okay, so I'm going to put this into this cornfield. So when you're working in plein air and you move the paint around like that, you have to be very careful that you don't get like that, this doesn't run out and run into my blue sky or whatever. So you have to be a lot more diligent and just do one thing at a time. Don't try to do a whole bunch of things at a time. Let's go back and look at a full shot of this again, and you'll see here that there's a area where the road and the gravel is, and there's very little difference between that road and the gravel when it comes to being gray. They're both gray. So one of the things that I'm going to do now, I just got my green running. So you've seen I worked on this section, and then I worked on this section, and then I worked on this section, and then I worked on this section. Now I'm going to work on this section. I'm doing that on purpose, right? I'm doing it so that my colors don't run together, because I don't want any of these colors running together. So you have to do a little bit of planning, a little bit of forethought, and you've got to be patient sometimes. You just have to, realize that you're working outside, and you need to be fairly patient with what it is that you're doing. Hey, I like this. I'm mixing this together here. That's turned out not too bad. I'm going to put a little bit more water into that. Pick some up with my, so I moved to a 1/2 inch flat brush here. Put a little bit more water into this, and I'm going to pick up just a touch of black. Touch more. I like what's going on there. I like what's going on there. It's turned out not too bad. Okay, so we're going to come back to this now. This piece of road right here, which is quite a bit lighter than the original gray that we put on here. So I'm going to pick up my brush. I'm going to mix some more water into this same wash that we used before, because we want to make this slightly lighter. It's got a little bit of a green tinge going on it, but that's alright. So this is going to be wet on dry. So this is a dry page, wet brush, and we're not using much paint here at all. Very little pigment. Very little. We're just sort of touching that along there like that. Create some streaks if you want. Alright, so I'm going to take my tissue. I'm going to make this a little patchy. just like that. Gives it a great kind of gravelly effect when you take out some of that water. This has kind of got some nice bloom going on in it right here too. Alright, how about this? Alright, not too bad. This all here is pretty dried up. The last part of this is going to be putting in our wheat field here, which is going to be sort of a golden brown. You know, this is going to be one of the highlights of our painting here. So we're going to make this golden brown. We're going to take this water that is a little grungy. That's okay. We're going to do that. Okay, so we're going to mix up brown. Keep this wet. So we might have to revisit this before we put our, I mean, it's in full sun, right? So it's cooking hot here right now. I'm going to put some brown down here. Not a lot. Put some brown there. And you'll see, so when I test this on the page, it's brown, okay? I'm going to pick up some water. I'm going to pick up some yellow, a lot of yellow. And I'm going to put that yellow into this brown. You're going to see we're going to get a golden color. That's exactly what I'm looking for. It looks to me very closely related to what it is that is in the video that we've been looking at. I'm going to put this into the water. I'm going to put a lot of it into the water. You see it started to dry up around the edges already. Alright, that's turned out awesome. I think we're done, and I hope you learned something from following along with me. And if you're looking for any of the products that I use, whether it's a Sennelier paint set or the watercolor paper, any of the other things that I've shown you here today, links to those are going to be in the description below. You know, I talked before about supporting artists, and you know, one of the ways that you can help support artists is buy the stuff that they sell, right? So whether it's our paintings or whether it's the products and services that we use, and you can click on the Amazon link and buy it through Amazon, that would be awesome. If you learned anything today, I would really appreciate if you clicked liked. That's how I know people are watching. That's how I know people are appreciating what it is that I'm doing. If you have a question or a comment, please leave it in the comment section. I love to hear from you, and I love to get all the feedback that I possibly can. If you're currently a subscriber, I thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate everybody who watches me, and thanks for coming out. We'll see you again next time. I gotta get out of the sun, my brain's cooking. And I gotta go drink some coffee.